Once upon a time, long ago, deep in the African plains, lived a guy named Mr. Tortoise. Why was Mr. Tortoise deep in the African plains? Excellent question. Mr. Tortoise didn't have a lot of friends because Mr. Tortoise was a tricker. He liked to fool people with his words so he could get what he wanted. Anyway, this particular day, Mr. Tortoise was walking along the ground. Boop, 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 boop. When suddenly he heard, obviously that's the sound of the birds in the sky having a great commotion and conversation. So Mr. Tortoise looks up, trying to figure out what they're talking about, but he can't hear them because they're so far away. So he goes, hey, 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 down here, hey, hey, hey. One of the birds sees him, comes flying down. And Mr. Tortoise asks, what's going on up there? I see you guys talking. What's happening? And the bird says, we are going to have the Feast of 1,000 Birds. We're so excited. And Mr. Tortoise asks, what's the Feast of 1,000 Birds? I don't know what that is. And the bird says, it's an ancient tradition for the birds, and I can't even find the words for it. You would just have to be there. So Mr. Tortoise says, why can't I go? I would love to come to this feast. And the bird says, oh, silly tortoise, you don't have wings. Mr. Tortoise realized he did not have wings, which meant that he couldn't fly up to the sky to be a part of the feast. So he thinks, and he thinks, then he has an idea. What if all you birds each gave me one feather? Then that would allow me to have enough feathers to make wings. The bird figured it out. So all the birds came down and gave the tortoise one feather. Pretty soon, Mr. Tortoise had a very impressive set of wings and he lifted off into the air. And before you knew it, he was the world's first flying tortoise. And the birds took him off beyond the clouds to their secret nest where they had the Feast of 1,000 Birds. The food wasn't out yet. They landed, and all the birds were excited. And Mr. Tortoise says, well, before we can eat, we must observe the very sacred tradition. And the birds were confused. They said, what sacred tradition? What are you talking about? This is our feast. I think we would know about a sacred tradition. And Mr. Tortoise goes, oh, no, you don't know about the tradition. Oh, my God, what have they been teaching you up here in bird school? All the winds got into your brain. How could you forget? On the day that we celebrate the Feast of 1,000 Birds, everyone is supposed to change their name. And the birds are like, oh, yes, of course, yes, we remember, of course, yes, we remember all of that, of course, yes. So one by one, the birds changed their name. My name is Thomas, or at least it was. And now my name is Clarence. My name is Pixie. At least it was. And now my name is Jehosha. My name is Dan. And now it's Anthony. My name is Marvel. And now it's DC. One by one, the birds changed their name. Till they got to Mr. Tortoise. And he stood up slowly and he says, my name is all of you. Birds thought that was a weird name, but they went with it because they were so hungry. So they clapped their wings, and one by one, other birds started to bring the food out. It was beautiful, all these nuts and berries and fruits and pastries and desserts and sweets and wine, and it was just an amazing meal. And the birds were so excited, and then Mr. Tortoise said, wait. Before anybody eats this, I should eat first. And the bird said, but for what? You're not even really a bird. You just got here. You're brand new. This is your first time at this feast. We've been doing this for thousands of years. And Mr. Tortoise said to the birds that brought the food out, who is this food for? And the birds that brought the food out said, all of you. And Mr. Tortoise looked around and he said, if you remember, my name is all of you. And the birds looked at each other and realized they'd been tricked. But there was nothing they could do, so they watched while Mr. Tortoise ate all the food. Left them just some bones and the fat that he didn't want and the shell of the nuts, but he ate the inside and he drank all the wine, but just left them the little portion where like the little dots are, just the tannins. That's all that he left them, and they were so upset. The birds were so upset that they took their feathers back. Now, Mr. Tortoise can't fly, and he's way up behind the clouds. How's he gonna get home? So Mr. Tortoise begs, please, please, just send a message to my wife. And the birds are like, no, we're not doing anything for you because you are a terrible, terrible, terrible tortoise and we don't like you and you tricked us and we wanted the food. So the birds all flew off. Except for one. He flew up to Mr. Tortoise. Hello. I'll take the message to your wife. What is it? Mr. Tortoise said, tell her to put all the soft stuff we have outside, and then I'll jump down and land on it. And the bird said, okay. I got you, pal. Don't worry. So the bird flew down, knocked on Mrs. Tortoise's door, and she answered it. Oh, hello. Can I help you? And the bird says, your husband is in the clouds, and he has requested that you put every hard thing you have outside. So Mrs. Tortoise gets all the hard stuff. She gets the stainless steel pans and the stainless steel island that was in the middle of their living room. She puts it out. She takes the mattresses and the box springs off and puts out the frame. She goes into the shed, gets the shovels and the wheelbarrows and the nice fresh set of nails, just piles it high with every hard thing they have. From way up in the sky, Mr. Tortoise looks down and he can see something's happening, but he doesn't know what. So he assumes it's the soft stuff. So he puts his hands together, says a little prayer to Tortoise Jesus, and he jumps off. And his shell shattered into 1,000 pieces. Did the tortoise die? No, come on, man. It's a kid's story. Tortoise can't die. But his shell was shattered, and he was hurt. He could barely walk. So Mrs. Tortoise took him to the medicine man. And the medicine man was able to make a paste from tree sap and berry juice and stitch and glue the shell back together. And legend has it, that's why a tortoise's shell is in so many pieces and it's not one smooth thing. But the lesson that Mr. Tortoise learned is that when you're a tricker, ultimately, that pain comes back onto you. So don't be a tricker. Be a good person. Be honest. Thank y'all for watching. This is the type of fun that we're going to have here. That story I actually got from a book called Things Fall Apart, which was written by Nigerian author Chinua Achebe. Let me make sure I say that correctly. Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Check out the book. Support Black and brown writers. Fantastic. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to have all sorts of fun stories, like I said, for kids, grandparents, everyone. Voiceover stories. And yeah, we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun. We're not going to talk mean to each other. Please don't. Don't talk mean to me. Don't roast me. Okay? Don't talk nasty to me, however you want to interpret that. Just talk story to me.